and we are back with our last conversation for this morning. Joining us via Zoom, we have the folks from the Statistical Institute of Belize. Joining us via Zoom, we have Mr. Hefte Ochaeta, a statistician at the Economic Statistics Department at SIB, and Tanisha Chavaria, the acting manager of Census, Surveys and Administrative Statistics Department at SIB. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so I want to start off first with talking about the last presentation that you gave on the GDP, the gross domestic product. Before I get into that, walk us through how SIB manages to come up with this data.
Okay, good morning. My name is Hefte Ochaeta. So we released our information for the second quarter GDP of 2022, and also we released our update information on the consumer price index and the imports and exports or merchandise trade statistics that we produce. So if you wouldn't mind, I could probably just give you a preview of those other two economic indicators, which are related to the GDP anyways. So for the month of August 2022, we reported that the consumer price index increased by an average of 7.4% higher than in the month of August 2021. That's in general. And with our merchandise trade statistics, as of August 2022, we're seeing that Belize imported about 20.8% more with respect to the same year, compared to the same month, in the previous year. And our exports have decreased significantly compared to the same month of 2021. They're down by 44.5%. So all of that information is part of our gross domestic product. Our gross domestic product takes into account prices and takes into account actual production and exports. So how we arrive at our valuation of the gross domestic product is that we try to gather information from all different areas in the country, different sectors, being the government, being business sectors or NGOs, and we arrive at a number that is an estimate more or less of where we stand in our current situation in the economy. So as of right now, we can say that the second quarter of 2022 shows that there is the second quarter of 2022 shows that there is an increase of 13.5% with respect to the previous year, 2021. However, also we have an update on the production for the year 2021. I thought it was here, but it's not here. So, which gives us a new valuation of where we stand. Okay. What happened in the production for the year 2022 for the second quarter is that we saw a contraction in the primary activities, that of 7.9%, or about 8.7 million decrease, mainly due to the crops produced by sugarcane, banana, and there was a reduction also in livestock production. There was a slight increase in the secondary sector activities, that of 1.5%. This is mainly attributed to increased beverage production and other food products that were manufactured. And also we saw a slight increase in citrus manufacturing and processing. And obviously the significant impact to the rural economy came from the services, or what we call the tertiary activities, which increased by 17.3%, or about 120.9 million, which was mainly due to the increases that were observed in the hotels and restaurants and the trading component of the economy, which is your wholesale and retail sectors. Yeah.
So
That's basically what.
Right. I know that for those that work at SIB, the numbers make sense to them, right? But the numbers may not make sense to the average folk. So I think I wanted to tap into why is it that Belizeans should be up to date with this kind of information? How does it affect us? Why is it important for us to understand GDP? I know that we were talking about the consumer index and how much we have been spending on certain items, but we don't really think about that on a daily basis. So how does this data impact Belizeans, and why should we be aware of it?
Well, at a personal level, the information is useful because it can help you make proper decisions on what you will do with your life. Mm-hmm. So if you would want to invest, if you would want to diversify what you're doing, if you would want to move from probably your current employment status that you have, if you would be willing to take the risk and start to entrepreneur, all of that you would do in a correct manner with the information that we produce. So that's the way it will impact us.
Let's get Tanisha into the conversation at the moment with respect of the census. Where are we with the count? And perhaps what are some of the challenges you guys are facing in terms of getting this information?
Good morning, thanks.
Good morning.
Yes, so presently we have completed data collection in several regions in the country. That is Corozal, Orange Walk, San Ignacio, and Toledo. We're still ongoing with data collection in Belize, San Pedro, Belmopan, surrounding areas, and Sand Creek. The challenges that we have been facing mainly relates to recruitment, as we were not able to recruit the entire persons that we need to conduct the census in the time that we had proposed. Nevertheless, we're still ongoing with data collection, and we plan to wrap up by November of this year and have the final counts ready to be released at June 2023.
So when we're looking at the census, it's more than just a national count. It's a look at certain demographic information and other trends or what have you in people. Can you expand on that for us, Tanisha?
Of course. The census is the one chance that we have every 10 years to collect a wealth of information on the population. It's not only getting a count of how many persons are residing in the household and give that information according to male or female. We also collect information on educational attainment, on nutrition, on crime, economic activity, disability. There's a wealth of information there that gives a very robust and holistic picture of the population, and the census is that one opportunity to do that every 10 years, and it will guide policy making and decision making for the next 10 years until we conduct another census.
What has been the apart from recruitment and so forth, what has been the ongoing I guess issue when it comes to data collection in places like Belize City, San Pedro, and Belmopan?
The main challenge is recruitment, as we have not been able to retain the number of staff that we initially recruited. So we started off with about 60% of the staff that we needed to conduct the census. And then since then, we have been experiencing challenges with retaining them, mainly due to competition from other recruiters, which would mainly be the call centers. We have been competing with the call centers to keep the persons recruited in the census. And then as it relates to the time that we have been able to find persons at home, we try to have the interviewers go out after 5 o'clock and on the weekends. In Belize City, there's definitely the concern with the safety of our interviewers. But we have been communicating and working along with different organizations within these communities so that the interviewers feel safe going out. We have been receiving support from organizations like the police department. In other districts, we have gotten support from Coast Guard, from fisheries. We have been receiving a lot of assistance with navigating through these challenges. And we want to encourage persons to respond to our interviewers, especially the first time that they attempt, or feel free to make an appointment with the interviewer so that they can schedule out their work and visit you at the most convenient time so that we can wrap up the census in November of this year.
Was there any conversations to probably move the census online? Perhaps that would be a way of assisting, because also I also realized that students started back to school as well, and school is now face-to-face, and so they can't really be recruiters anymore. So is there any conversations about moving the census to something that people can do online?
It's definitely something for future consideration for maybe the census that we do 2030. Okay. However, for 2022, the main challenge is that we don't have the infrastructure to be able to carry out an online survey, because mainly due to concerns over the coverage and the quality of the census, it's that if we're receiving online questionnaires, then it would be difficult to control from which household that came from. And to control over counting. So we did in the
checks
country,
and balances would be greater.
Infrastructure as yet, but let's cross our fingers for 2030 to be able to do an online census.
So given the challenges with the population and housing census, we're aware that you're also rolling out the labor force survey. So how are you planning to maneuver that so that the same challenge doesn't happen again?
Our force survey is different when compared to the census, because the labor force survey, it requires a very small reference period of 4 weeks, so that we are able to produce economic statistics over that. It's a snapshot of the labor force at that time. Now, to overcome that, we definitely have been experiencing similar challenges to the census with recruitment. So we have been recruiting relief interviewers that would step in to cover in the case of somebody dropping out or finding a full-time job, and that has been helpful so far, getting a surplus of interviewers and training them. And we also have our staff and field supervisors going out with the teams, meeting with the households, encouraging them to participate. And that's how we have been overcoming the challenges that we saw in the census, so that we don't see it again for the labor force survey.
So for the purpose of public information, the census comes to a close in November. The data won't be released formally until June 2023. What happens in the intervening months in terms of processing the information and collating it?
So the first thing that we do as soon as we wrap up the data collection is to wrap up the editing coding section. So that would be looking at certain response categories and connecting it with the international codes that apply to it. So that would normally be in economic activity, in education, and that will take us up to early January. After that, we would then do merging, cleaning of the data, run some validations, and then we would apply some statistical techniques to the data, where we would make some adjustments to the data. And from there, we would extract the preliminary results from the census and write our reports and have that prepared for June of next year. So because it's a census, it's a very large data set. It does have its different steps of cleaning, validation, and merging that we have to do, which will take us a bit of time to do. But, you know, in June of next year, which is very close, we will have the preliminary results ready.
All right. Is there any other statistics that the SIB would like to share with us this morning with our viewers?
Yes, we have Mr. Hefner here, who has a wealth of statistics that we just released last week, Wednesday, that he's able to share with you.
Give us the numbers, Mr. Hefner.
Yes, again, sorry. So we jumped through it, right? So I was mentioning the prices for the month of August. We released an update on the inflation rate, which is at 7.4% for the month of August compared to the previous year. Mainly this is due to rise in fuel prices and food, and also restaurant services and household and cleaning products. That's the main increase that we're seeing for the month of August. The cumulative inflation, that is from January up to August, stands at 6%. Compared to the previous years. And again, what is influencing this raise in the inflation has to do with your transportation services, which are influenced directly to fuels and also to the food, which has been increasing. For the month of August, we saw the highest inflation rate reported for the year in food, which went up by about 8.2%. So that's very high. And in itself, the food category went up by 9.6% compared to the previous year. So things that are affecting this is your daily basket, you know, cooking oils, cereals, meats, eggs, which have been on the rise. That's what we saw from the consumer price index. From the merchandise trade statistics, which deals with your imports and exports, for the month of August, we imported a total value of $230 million, which is an increase of 39.6 million to the previous year. This increase is basically because we're importing more machinery and transport equipment, food and live animals, and stuff into the commercial free zone. For the first 8 months, the cumulative imports is at a figure of $1.768 billion, which is an increase of 34.8% from the previous year. And for the month of August, we have reported that there was a total value of $35.2 million in our exports in commodities, which is a decrease of 44.5% from the previous year, 2021, yes. And this decrease is because we saw less exports of sugar and banana.
And again,
so that's basically what we have so far, right? Then I was mentioning that we have an update on our statistics, on our GDP, which we have a revised number for the year 2021, which you can access in our website.
Okay. And just to wrap it up with your statistics, Mr. Ocheta, when it comes to how often you all research and develop these numbers, is this a yearly, bi-monthly, every 6 months? How do you develop these statistics? And
okay, so we have control over 2 items, which is the consumer price index and the merchandise trade statistics. we produce this on a monthly basis because we have full control over them. The Consumer Price Index is a retail store survey, which we send our surveyors throughout the country to monitor the prices. The merchandise trade statistics, we have a working relationship with the Customs Department, and we're able to access the database live. So we're able to see what's happening on a daily basis, and that allows us to produce the statistics every month for the Consumer Price Index and the merchandise trade statistics. When it comes to the gross domestic product, as you're taking into account everything that is produced and consumed in the country of release, the domestic economy, that is a bit more different. So that takes a little longer due to the fact that, as you know, it will be more difficult to access the data. So we would normally give it about 12 weeks at the end of a given quarter for us to have the numbers available for the gross domestic product, because we have to access the information on production and also on financial reports that are shared with us. So all of that information takes a little while to compile. Yeah.
All right. And of course, we want to tell our public, our viewers, that they can always access these statistics at the SIB website at sib.org. Yes? All right. Mr. Hefte, Ms. Tanisha, thank you both so much for joining us via Zoom. Next time we hope to have you in studio. And I think that we will also have you guys back to give us the update on the census. Thank you both so much for joining us this morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to take our final break, and we'll be back to wrap up the show. So stay tuned.